Okay, what's up guys, this is Jack from AntiVFX, and in this video we are going to talk about adding transitions inside Adobe Premiere 2020. Transitions are pretty useful. We have to use them pretty frequently. Normally we add transition to a cut between a cut, right? So you can see I have added two clips in my timeline, and this is a cut, right? So this is a default cut transition, but if you want to do some creative effect to this cut, we can add a transition. In this video I'm going to explain every single detail that you need to know about adding transitions inside Adobe Premiere. So transitions are in effects panel. When you click on it, you can press the tilde key to go to the full screen. Here you can see a separate folder for video transitions. You can expand this and you can see different categories of transitions. By the way, even though this comes with a default Adobe Premiere, these things are not very professional. I don't know why that Adobe included these things. Only few of them are very professional, like the cross dissolve and some stuff, right? So don't use these in your professional projects. I just wanted to show you how to use them. Actually there are a few transitions that is very professional. You can these things, but these things are very amateur looking transitions. So in this example, let's see how to add a transition. In order to add the transition, you can drag and drop the transition to the cut. Let's say we want to add the cube, let's say we want to add the zoom transition, something like cross zoom. So this is the once you select the transition, you can drag and drop to the this cut, right? So you can see here, and you can see this message, right? So insufficient media, the transition will contain repeated frames. That because if you take a look at these clips, there are no extra frames. This is the end of the clip, right? So by that way, if you added the transition, the Adobe Premiere has to create repeated frames at the end to fill that transition, right? So to fix this, you can trim the clip to like somewhere like this, and you can take this clip, and also you can trim this clip like this, right? So now we have extra frames. Even though it is not visible, Premiere can use that extra frames to make this transition, fill that transition. So now I move this clip back here, and I'm going to drag this transition to here again. And now we didn't get this message, right? So you can see we have added this transition, but if you take a look at it, it is very quick, right? So what is the reason? That you can see this transition has a duration. You can when you hover your mouse to this place, you can see this icon, and you can drag to increase the transition duration, and you can see the duration of the transition. Currently it is 8 frames, not seconds, right? So now we can release the mouse, and when we play this, you can see it's a pretty quick transition, right? So this is the transition. So when you double click on this transition, you will get this set transition duration dialog box. Here at the end, these are frames, these are seconds, and these are minutes. Normally we want to add transitions in like seconds and frames. We don't use minutes, right? So unless it's a weird project. So you can manually set the time, right? Let's say we want to must be this 20 frames. In that case, you can highlight this and type 20, and because these are frames, you don't have to type anything else, just 20 frames. Click OK. Now you can see our transition expanded, and if you take a look at this duration, it says it's 20 seconds. You can hover the mouse cursor to see the transition duration. Now let's play this again. Right, so that's a pretty smooth transition. Right, so by that way we can add the transition. So now here is another thing that you need to know. If you go to the edit and preferences and timeline section here, you can get the preferences dialog box, right, like this. And here you have option to set the transition duration. Here the video transition default duration. Currently I have set to 2 frames, but if you want it to be 20 frames, you can put it here. So by that way, when you add the new transition, the duration will be 20 automatically frames. You can also adjust this to seconds, but normally we don't want to use that longer transition. Now I click OK, and you can also select this transition and press delete to delete the transition. And if I now drag and drop a transition like a band or something like this to this cut, and I release the mouse, and when I double click this again, now you can see our transition duration is 20 frames. That's because we set our transition duration inside the preferences. Now I click OK. Let's see this transition. As I said, these transitions are not very professional. So inside Premiere, we create custom transitions, and we use that transition inside professional projects. But sometimes these transitions are pretty useful in a certain case. So now let me explain the most useful transition inside Adobe Premiere, that is the cross dissolve. So if you are fed up with finding the transition here, you can type the transition here. Like when you type the cross dissolve, you can see the transition came. Now here this is an important fact. You can see this transition is highlighted in my effect window. So what is the reason? That because that I have set this transition as default transition. That's why this is highlighted in blue. So what is the meaning of default transition? Default transition is we can use this default transition to add transition using a keyboard shortcut. If you go to the sequence menu, I select this cut and I got the sequence menu, and here you can see apply video transition. That means we can apply a default transition. So here's the shortcut. I have set this to Ctrl D, and let's say I select the cut and I press Ctrl D. Now you can see I added this transition using the keyboard shortcut. By the way, if you want to change this default transition to something else, you can select the transition you want to be as a default transition, and you can right click here and set selected as default transition. So when you select that, you can see now it is blue. That means this is our current default transition. So I delete this, and when I press Ctrl D again, you can see we added the cross zoom transition because now we set this as our default transition. You can see this is the transition. So like that. So the cross dissolve is the most frequently used transition, and this is how you add transitions inside Adobe Premiere. So just practice with these techniques. By the way, when you select this transition and if you take to the effect control panel, you can see some durations like duration. In here also you can set the duration, but I think just double click here and change the duration is pretty easy. If you want to make this to a second, let's say if you want to add this to 1 second, you can type 1 and then press the period key, right? So that means we can calculate the frames. So you can see now it is 1 second. If you want to make this 2 seconds, type 2 and period, right? So that's where we can easily type the transition duration instead of going to this place and set the transition duration like this. So here to have another 3 options like transition alignment. In here I have aligned the transition to center. That means center of the cut. That means one part of the transition is from the beginning of the clip and the other part is from the end of the clip. But if you want to change this, you can set start at the cut. So that means that will change this transition to start of the second clip, right? So like this. If you want to make this to beginning of the cut, you can go to the end at the cut. That means end of the first clip. Let's play this. So you can see you can get different result by changing this value. So normally we use center at cut, but you can use that other options too, right? So like this. So you can see like this. So you can also use the tilde key on your keyboard to take a full screen view on your effect. Let's see. Alright, so these are the things that you need to know about adding transitions, and by that way you can add transitions inside Adobe Premiere. So I'll see you guys next with the next Adobe Premiere tutorial. Thanks.
Face to face I found my pain beneath the lies and broken dreams. Lost the love I had in me. It tore me apart, fade away. I felt so lost.